Hey folks, Matt from artoftheimage.com. I'm pretty excited, as I'm sure a lot of you are, because the pre-orders have started now for the Nikon D850. In other words, we've also got the finalized specs for this thing. And I'm going to make a bold statement here and say this is pretty much the perfect DSLR. When I say that, it's perfect in the sense that it meets or exceeds pretty much everybody's needs. Maybe 98, 99% of shooters out there's needs. Meets or exceeds. I know I have been saying that I would like to have seen a larger resolution sensor, but as spec'd, as we've seen now with 46 megapixels, this thing is amazing. There's really nothing that can touch it on the market today as a complete package when we look at it as a whole. Let me look at this for you. I was going through it. Obviously, I'm excited. I'm excited when anybody comes out with something as, I don't know if revolutionary is the right word, but this is a truly, this is the epitome of the perfect DSLR. We finally got a DSLR that many people will buy and not feel the need to replace in the rest of their lifetime. The specs on this thing are truly incredible. I've come up with 13 reasons. 13 of the most significant specs, 13 of the most significant features for the D850, why the D850 is the perfect DSLR. I'm making my argument to you of why there's nothing else out there that can come close to competing with this on all of its various aspects. When you put it all together, it beats everything, hands down. We've got the 46 megapixel sensor. It's a BSI sensor, and combined with the new XSpeed 5 image processor, I'm lumping this all into one point about the sensor and the processor, but we got 46 full frame megapixels, and what I think we will see, this remains to be seen, but I've seen a lot of the early footage and the early samples out there. I think you're going to see that this is the best performing high resolution sensor to date. Best high ISO, best dynamic range, best all across the board out of any of the high resolution sensors, which would include the 5DS, the 5DSR, the Sony a7R II, all of them out there. I'm not comparing this to medium format, but I think it would even rank favorably against comparable resolution medium format sensors. Second, we've got a 3.2 inch tilting touchscreen. Now, I would have preferred, as I'm sure most of you know, a full vari-angle LCD, as Nikon calls them, one that flips out and moves all around like the G85 I'm shooting with right now. But it does have a movable touchscreen, and so it's tilting and movable, similar to what we've seen on, say, the D750, or I guess it would be the D7500 has something similar now. So kudos to Nikon. We've gone touchscreen. Hopefully, it's the best implementation of a touchscreen on a Nikon yet. I would think it will be, because this isn't technically Nikon's flagship because they have the D5, but for a lot of people, this will be Nikon's flagship. This will be the go-to camera. Number 3, the 4K UHD video recording at 30 frames per second. Awesome. One of the highest resolution cameras out there, if not the highest, that shoots at 4K currently. And that is awesome. Kudos to Nikon for doing that. Canon should take a page from Nikon's book here. Don't strip down your camera. The 5D4, I couldn't possibly recommend anybody buy the 5D4 when you're looking at the price versus performance against something like this new D850. And then the 5D4 is relatively new, so I think it's a fair comparison. I would say the same thing against a 5DS or a 5DSR, but I digress. Let's finish my points here. The multicam 20K 153-point AF system. Amazing AF system. Nikon's best of the best. It's a truly stellar AF system. -4 EV it's rated to. So this thing practically shoots and focuses in the dark. And from all initial reports from people playing with it and shooting with it in various lighting situations, this thing's incredible. I don't think there's going to be any complaints on the D850's autofocus system. Number 5, focus peaking. We finally got focus peaking in a DSLR, not just any DSLR, a killer DSLR like the D850. This is cool. This is really cool, and a lot of people are going to appreciate this, whether they're using manual focus lenses, older lenses, adapted lenses, shooting video, shooting photography. I always like to have focus peaking on a camera. It's something that originally we only had in the Micro Four Thirds, and slowly we've been seeing other people get. But to date, I don't know that we've seen this in Canon and Nikon yet. If we have a Nikon, it may be the D7500, but I'm not aware of it. That would be something I missed if that was one of the specs. I think this may be Nikon's first DSLR with focus peaking. If I'm incorrect on that, feel free to let me know in the comments below. But that is my thought, that this is their first DSLR with focus peaking. Native ISO 25,600 extended to 1,400. So 102,400. This is alone isn't a stellar or earth-shattering ISO. There are other cameras that will meet or exceed this. But where it is a stellar ISO range is the fact that it's a 46 megapixel camera capable of this. And similar to the D810, which at the time was revolutionary megapixels, it shot very, very well at its high ISO ranges. And even better when you took the file and if you down-resed it, because if you didn't need a 46 megapixel file, I suspect we'll see the exact same thing here, especially with this being a BSI sensor. So yeah, really excited about the ISO range on this 46 megapixel camera. Number 7 frames per second shooting for 51 frames with AE and AF. This is pretty impressive when you look at the size of the file and the throughput we can get here. 7 frames per second. You can go to 9 frames per second with the optional grip. That's pretty cool. It's a very fast camera for a 46 megapixel full frame camera. That's pumping a lot of information through, hence why we got the new X-Speed 5, I'm sure. Number 8, 120 frames per second slow-mo. A lot of cameras don't even have slow-mo. We've got 120 frames per second slow-mo, which ties nicely into the fact that this is going to be a very good 4K camera. Oh, and a point I didn't make it separate, but that I should have pointed out with the 4K video is that this thing will shoot 4K with no crop, full frame, no crop. So that is another very significant point, probably worthy of its own point. You could make that point 14 if you want. 8K time lapse is my number 9. That's pretty cool. That's pretty powerful time lapse. 8K. I think there might be one or two others out there that are doing that, but it's still relatively rare. And again, kudos to Nikon for packing a lot of features in this camera. Number 10, dual card slots. While I would have preferred dual SD, we have an XQD and a secure digital, an SD. I would have preferred dual SD, but at least we have dual card slots. I know why they're doing it. Technically, theoretically, the XQD is faster. I don't know. I think technology is moving forward so fast on the SDs. I would have just been happy with dual SDs because there's some pretty bloody fast dual SDs out there. But we can debate that at another time. Number 11, and this was kind of a surprise from left wing, or right wing, whichever way you want to say it, the negative digitizer mode. And I didn't even know what that meant at first, but this is really cool. Digitize the gems from your film days with the D850's full 46 megapixels using the new optional ES2 film digitizer adapter on a compatible micro Nikkor lens. So you throw a compatible lens on, a compatible micro or macro lens. You put the film digitizer on and you can take full 46 megapixel images of your negatives. So it's a negative digitizer, which is pretty neat for those of us that have a lot of. Now, I'm not in that camp, but certainly my uncles and my father are. They have a lot of negatives. And this would be really interesting because you're going to get probably best in the biz. I don't know how you would get better than this. 46 megapixel digital copies of those negatives. This would be very impressive. And I think this will appeal to a lot of people who have a lot of negatives from past days of shooting with negative film. For number 12. Focus stacking made easy with the new focus shift mode. So it's another really cool feature. You can do focus stacking with the touch of a button using the joystick or the other controls on there. Really cool, really neat option that I'm looking forward to playing with. Number 13 is just more of a pushing the updates through, but the connectivity. We've got SnapBridge, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. So that's awesome. It's fully connectable, full connectivity there. Really, really good. So there's 13, 14 if you take the 4K no crop shooting as a point on its own, or you could lump that in with the 4K video itself and make that 13. There are other features I haven't mentioned. These were the ones that I felt were the strongest, most notable. But this is truly one of the best offerings. I think this is the best offering I've ever seen in a DSLR to date. Nikon has knocked this out of the park. I'm super impressed with what we've got. Even with, I know I've been saying that I would have liked to have seen a higher resolution sensor. Well, hey, we can hope for that in another camera. This sucker, this D850, as I said, is the perfect camera for just about everybody. It will meet or exceed, and in most cases, it will exceed most people's requirements at a price point. I believe I saw the price point on pre-order on this was $32.95 US. So this is impressive. And that's another reason that going up against a similarly priced competitor like Canon's 5D Mark IV, it can't hold a candle to everything this thing can do. Whether it's resolution, whether it's the better 4K video, whether it's the autofocus system, whether it's a slew of these other features. There's literally nothing else on the market, in my opinion, that can touch this when you look at it as a complete package and all these points I'm talking about here. Feel free to debate that with me. Leave your comments below if you agree with me, if you think this is essentially the perfect DSLR to date, the best we've seen to date in a complete package. If you think there's something else for some other reason that might be better or that you do disagree, let me know what it is and why. Let's keep it civil. We can agree to disagree and debate the fact. But I do believe Nikon is going to sell a boatload of these things. And I think this is going to be the reigning champ for quite a while. The same way that the D810 did that, the D800 and then the D810. There was nothing comparable for a long time from Canon. And now Nikon's taking that pole position back. So let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree, and why? Leave your comments below. Interested to hear your feedback. I am excited about this camera, as is spec'd. It is pretty much a perfectly spec'd camera. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon here at artoftheimage.com.